No oxygen for them. No, no. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode on the Big Dane podcast. Today I have the guest of Matt Warnock on with me, as you are all familiar with him.
Oh yeah, what's up?
How are you doing, Matt?
I'm just peachy.
Fabulous.
Yes, very fabulous.
Cool. So people, two quick random thoughts from last episode that I did on pets. And I was going to say this, and then I honestly could not remember because I was so little. But I was talking to my mom about it and how I was talking and telling you guys about my godfather's golden retriever that he had, and with me being like very small, and then the golden retriever being so rowdy. So the golden retriever actually pushed me in the pool. Gasp. And
Am I supposed to make that?
I don't know. So so yeah, and I thought, I was like, did that happen? Didn't that happen? And yeah, so it was just another traumatizing experience, I guess. Although, if I did block it out, I guess it wasn't as traumatizing. But then it was, because I was probably only like 6 years old, and
Little baby Dana.
yeah, so that's that. And then just one random update on my walk. I found $1. Yep, was a $1 richer.
I'm jealous.
And then literally on last episode about the pets, and I was like, well, it's so silly for someone to name their cat Angelfish, because as you all know, that was Moo's name before I changed it. And literally as I said it out loud, it made me think. I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if there's actually literally angelfish that are black and white. And so now I was looking this up after I recorded last weekend, and here there's a zebra angelfish, and there's over 20 different kinds of angelfish. So like it kind of worked, but like not really. I still say no. Why did you name black and white cat angelfish? If you're gonna go that route, then it would be zebra angelfish, but that's a ridiculously long name for a cat.
You know what's kind of ironic about angelfish? They like to attack other fish.
How do you know that?
Just something someone told me that
Mm.
owned an angelfish. So you have to like be careful what species you other fish species you put in the same tank,
I'll have to ask Sam about that, if that's true.
because Moo attacks Lydia.
So anyway, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I thought that was just like kind of funny, and then you like, as you say things out loud, you realize like, wait, what about this? And then you find out there could be something out there that is more of a reason why they named her that. And so here we are, but obviously I renamed her to Moo. Yeah. Okay, so today we're getting into the topic, getting a little sciencey, on Earth. UFOs. Being on Earth. Aliens. But ultimately, it's just like we as humans live on planet Earth, and it's the idea of just why are we here, and how
How did we get here?
like, and sure, like, and I'm not going to get into religion ever on my podcast, but of course there's various religions where, well, God created Earth and this and that. But then you have the other people who are non religious and say it's all science. And so there's a lot of facts behind that and how stuff happened. But besides that, because we're not going to get into that, it's just kind of weird. I mean, sometimes I think of it as like we're the Sims and like, okay, let me do the same thing over and over again every day. I get up, I go to work, which is still in my house because of the time being with COVID and working from home. And then it's like you get your coffee, you eat breakfast, you go back to work, you break, and it's just this cycle and cycle over and over and over. And it's just like a time lapse. Like, okay, let's see how this year went. And now my car is broken. You need $500 for that. Cha-ching! And now your sim needs more money to be alive.
Yeah, we're all just there's that theory that we're all in a simulation, like the video game The Sims, which is a fun video game, by the way, but would be pretty messed up if that was real.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to take a look at it from a bigger perspective and really think like about all the other planets, right? And then it's only ours, Earth, is where people are living, And it's just, if you really think about it, maybe you'll get high or whatever, you start to think about these things. Or you just like to think about, more sciencey things and how they became. And honestly, I think it's also tied into, as you get older, you start to wonder about certain things and you think about it differently just because the way your life is changing, the way we're getting older and evolving, and technology and so many other things. And it's like, well, why isn't there another, planet Earth, right? Where there are other humans and life. And so it's interesting that NASA, and it's amazing like what they can do and what kind of projects and missions they have to try to figure this all out and date back like billions and billions of years ago. But it's just crazy how there could be life, at the, like at a minimal point of some sort of life happening, like not obviously humans, but something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting because there's a very, if you compare like all that like about all that science knows about other planets and like what their atmospheres are like and the conditions of the universe and stuff like that, in that grand scheme of things there's a very small margin of conditions, like a very like needle point margin of where life can fester in the universe. And Earth just won the lottery, really. So like when NASA looks at other planets and other solar systems, there's a habitable zone that they look at, and if there's planets rotating that are like just far enough away from their star in their solar system that they won't be too hot or too cold to cultivate life.
Yeah.
So you need like the right balance of gases in the atmosphere as well as water, and that's how like life can come to be on a planet.
Yeah, and it even kind of makes me think of like Christopher Columbus coming here and thinking that they were gonna fall off because of the planet being round, and it's like, I think when you're younger, you kind of laugh about it. At least I did, because like, well, why would they think that? Like, and then as an adult, you understand, I think, better that that's not going to happen. But I can see why they would think that looking at a round circular planet. Sure, it looks like you're up here, now you're going to be down here. You're going to fall into like outer space, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because everything is just orbiting around each other and just we're just floating. We're here on Earth just floating around in space.
Yeah, we're on this little spacecraft we call Earth, spinning thousands of miles per hour around a big ball of nuclear fusion. It's pretty crazy.
And then even with the sun, I feel like obviously people, you know, get sunburn and it's amazing that a star so strong, so far away is still making a huge impact on the earth and on so many places. It's like insane. And, you know, kind of ties into all of like the time difference. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have the sun is going down now, but it's still hanging out in California, you know, and beyond that.
You know what's kind of interesting about the sun and the heat it gives off? So the heat we experience here on Earth that's given to us from the sun is in the form of radiation, which is an interesting phenomenon. So if you like boiled a pot on your stove and you like hovered your hand not directly over the pot because you probably burn yourself, not condoning this, but if you like held your hand near the pot or around it and you felt that heat, that's a different kind of heat than the sun is giving off.
Sure, yeah.
So the sun's giving off radiation, and radiation doesn't give off heat until it makes contact with the surface. So from the sun to the earth, the radiation doesn't give off heat, but once it makes contact with earth, our skin, the ground, the houses, buildings, whatever, then it gives off heat.
Mm-hmm.
That's why like your car gets super hot, because there's surfaces in your car are getting hot, but then it's trapped inside of your windows and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
And yeah, it's kind of just strange. Like, well, why do we have to work to live? And why do we have to do things to be on this planet? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did that happen? And it's just kind of weird, I think, to think about, and like the purpose of why we're here. And you know, humans, I think, were made to interact one another. So with COVID, like, huge impact on everyone, because that literally in-person connection was absolutely and partially is still gone, you know. And I think it, you know, just kind of goes back to, well, why are we here? And I keep saying that, but it's like, what are we doing?
You know what's interesting is I didn't really think about this until we started this episode, but I think it's pretty. There's a very high chance that this planet is the only planet that ever had COVID or ever will. So it's kind of interesting we live in this symbiotic relationship with these diseases.
Yeah, I mean, what we're say if there was another planet with maybe not as many humans, but humans on it, are you saying that it wouldn't get to the other planet?
Unless we were sending a spaceship. This is like same thing going with like your when you mentioned Christopher Columbus. Um, Before Christopher Columbus or the Vikings, however you want, Christopher Columbus is a controversial character, we know, but we're talking about just the nice things he did. um, but when he went over from Europe to the Americas, he brought over diseases that never existed on this continent.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing would happen with us going to another planet.
Sure, yeah.
That's why, like, when the Mars missions send rovers to Mars or they send them to comets or different probes, they have to make sure that the machinery is sterilized so as to not contaminate the other planet's environments with whatever we have. So that's why it's really important. Like everything's sterile once they go to that planet.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder how long it would even take to get to one planet to another. Like once you're up in outer space, I wonder how long that takes.
I think, don't quote me on this, but I think from Earth to Mars, it's a 3-year journey. Or at least the manned mission to Mars will be a 3-year journey.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine being in a small capsule for 3 years before you arrive at your destination.
Yeah, it's a long time.
But yeah, it's like, it's kind of interesting, like, just looking at our society, like, why we're here, stuff like that. Like, that's, like, the ultimate question. Like, who put us here, if anyone put us here, or are we just, like, a random anomaly? I think what's kind of interesting is that to think about how much of our world is made up by ourselves.
Like man-made lakes.
Yeah, like man-made lakes. There's one.
That's what I think of.
Money is also a man-made thing. Time is also a man-made phenomenon.
As far as what?
Like we created and defined time. So this would get way too complicated for this podcast, but
For this episode,
please excuse my lack of podcast nomenclature. This would get too complicated, but basically, if you look more deeply at Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not a fixed constant, so it can change. But it's also based on our, like, how time passes, how our experience happens on this earth.
mm-hmm.
So for example, if you were on a planet that was closer to a black hole, for instance, the gravity of a black hole is so intense that it can actually bend space-time.
Yeah.
And so time passes differently.
Sure.
So it's like we defined it.
But I mean, even like hundreds of years ago, like I think back to like the Mayans and Aztecs, and when they were even just creating like a calendar. So it's interesting how far back that goes, even in like days of the week, and the simplest things that you can think of on a daily basis that to us doesn't really mean anything. Saturday and Sunday, oh, that's the weekend. That's it. But like where does this come from? Like why the hell do we work 5 days a week? At least in America.
Why don't we work 4 days a week?
Christ.
Why don't we get 2 months of vacation like Europe does?
Yeah, I'm gonna quit. So
if there are any listeners that are living in Europe who wonder why Americans don't get as much vacation as like most Europeans do, it fucking sucks. You guys have it good.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. It's just how interesting how all the cultures like differ so drastically, and we're all on one planet. But the planet is so large.
Yeah. We're all in this together, guys. Seriously.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Curious to what everyone else thinks of like our purpose here and why we do things because we're here, why we use a car like to go places, the simplest things. So
Yeah, like I think one inspirational speech that a famous astronomer, Carl Sagan, made is he was involved with NASA's mission, the Voyager project. And a quick backstory with the Voyager project is NASA sent 2 or 3 space probes into the solar system to take photos and measure things to get a better understanding of our solar system. And then the ends of the mission is they would be catapulted into deep space.
mm-hmm.
So Carl Sagan was involved in one of the missions, and one thing he really wanted to encourage NASA to do is after the probe passed Pluto, he wanted NASA to turn the probe around and take a photo of Earth. And so that's where you get the famous pale blue dot photo.
Take a selfie of the Earth.
Yes, it was the selfie of
the
selfies.
first selfie that we didn't even know.
Yeah, it's the selfies of selfies. But like one thing he said is like, it was really amazing because all you see in this photo is just tons of black and stars and stuff like that, and then there's this tiny blue dot which is like the size of a pinhead, and he's like, all of those generals and emperors and all those monarchs, dictators that have fought wars and spilled blood to gain like a small tiny fraction of that pale blue dot. It's like, are you really making an impact? Is it really
I wonder
that
how
big of a deal?
I wonder how far they thought it was. But with regards to some of the upcoming missions, there was a Mars mission for 2020 that got delayed, so it's not going to happen no earlier than July 30th. And so whenever, it could be then or it could be sometime in August, but it's NASA's Mars 2020 Perseverance rover that will land inside Mars's Jezero crater. By the time it gets to that crater, it'll be roughly around February 18th of 2021. So, and when I was reading about this, it's interesting just because of the certain conditions. They really only have a certain amount of time frame to plan all this. So if that window is gone, with this delay, I think there were some technical issues. They may have to wait until, I think they said until the fall. So to even, do the whole experience first onto Mars and then do the whole crater initiative there. And what they're trying to do ultimately is just look for that Martian life and see, if anything is really happening, because they had noted there was an ancient lake bed the size of Lake Tahoe or river delta, and had been there billions and billions of years ago. But yeah, I mean, think about the climate, that's always changing. So obviously there's no water on Mars, so it dried up. So they're trying to see and collect samples and whatnot to see what else is going on. And by the time they actually collect all of that, get it back to Earth, are you ready for this? This is not going to be available as early as 2031. So 11 years, people. I'm going to be 41 until we find out these answers. And, which I thought was really cool, this is a joint effort by NASA and the European Space Agency. How cool is that? What up, Europe? Help us out.
We're better together.
And one point that they did make was that the rover will also be testing new exploration technology in the gear that generates oxygen from Mars's thin carbon dioxide dominated atmosphere, since That's what they have there. No oxygen for them. No, no.
You know what's kind of an interesting theory, though?
What's that?
Uh, Elon Musk talks about this sometimes, but since NASA's atmosphere is predominantly carbon dioxide, and plants take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen, is you could potentially convert the atmosphere of Mars to support life.
Yeah. I wonder how involved that would be and how much time and energy and probably money too to freaking set all that shit up.
It would take multiple lifetimes, I would say that.
It's kind of just like an ongoing project. You think of our Earth, right, with various different continents, all the countries. And it's almost like, all right, let's start with this country and try to get it set up so you guys can actually, breathe here and try to live here, That's just wild. But
I can't believe that there's a long list of people who signed up to be the first group that lives on Mars. Because the first mission to Mars is a one-way trip. There's no return trip.
Oh, I don't like that. That's scary.
Yeah, so imagine boarding a spacecraft knowing you're not coming back. And you're leaving everything behind.
That takes a special character in a person to do that. What's the guy's name that we watched? Free with the rock climbing.
Free Solo.
Free Solo. Someone like him, I think he would do it because when they examined his brain, there was no fear for anything.
Yeah, no fear, no remorse, no loathing. He was a very interesting character.
Someone that has that kind of mindset and just, not the average or typical person that does get, fearful of certain things. The dark.
Also.
Aliens!
Martians!
UFOs!
Also has to be smart enough to do science experiments once they get there.
Oh. Yeah. I think what would be really hard is just like now with COVID to an extent, obviously, is just having someone else there with you. If someone else isn't there with me, I think I'm gonna lose my mind. Sure, now it's different, when we're all been cooped up in the same house with someone, but this is a little different. You're not in your own home. You're in a fucking spaceship where you gotta eat space food that tastes like chalk and just trying to keep your mind healthy, I guess.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because NASA is trying to pick specific personality types to be on that first mission so that you don't pick conflicting personality types.
Wait, didn't I see? I feel like I heard something that you have to have 20/20 vision to.
Oh yeah, that's even Navy pilots have to have 20/20 vision.
But I thought how many? Well, I think it kind of depends on the age too. I don't know, because I think someone younger with 20/20. I mean, I don't need glasses, but my vision is no longer 20/20. But I still don't wear glasses because it's very small, minor, correction I would need. So if I'm 30, how many, let's say, 30-year-olds have 20/20 vision? I'm just trying to think of in the sense of how many people younger than us would want to do that as part of their life. I don't know. I just feel like they're not ready.
It's a very slim margin of people who can fit those descriptions. Which, if you want to talk about aliens, there's a theory that, how
Yeah, I was just gonna say maybe aliens could be a whole nother topic.
Yeah,
um,
I mean, just to tease it, like the stereotypical shape of an alien.
yeah, which is funny. Where did that
What
come from?
what if they were made by an intelligent species? They were designed for space travel. Like they had 20/20 vision. They could withstand radiation.
So there's aliens here that look like humans.
No, just like the
Like The
shape of an
Outsider
alien.
with Jason Bateman. I'm on to something.
Yes, but we can discuss it later.
uh, oh my gosh. There's so much to talk about, guys. This episode just went too fast. I can't get over it.
No.
But yeah, well, let me know your thoughts. If you have any UFO pictures, let me know. Please do not send me a picture of a frisbee because I know that is not a UFO.
Send me pictures of frisbees. Send me all of your frisbee pictures.
But yeah, be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, that's all the same jazz. And just remind you guys about Google Podcasts. Again, there's been a little bit of a delay with them. Why? I don't know, but that's just the way they've been uploading things. So when I publish my episodes, I just been doing it like 1 a.m. And no, I'm not up till 1 a.m. There's a nice little feature where you can schedule it. So it's been fabulous. But regardless, there is a little bit of delay on Google Podcasts. So if you're itching to just listen for the latest and greatest, just go to my website, the bigdanepodcast.com/podcast to go directly to all the episodes, get the latest, and all the links are there for you to listen on your favorite platform. And if you're feeling a little funky, a little strange that day, you want to look at strange photos, you can look at my coffee page, the coffee subscription that I keep reminding you all to, if you're feeling lucky and you can buy me a little cup of coffee if you really enjoy the exclusive content that I do not have on my Facebook and Instagram accounts. So I'll leave it to you, but I'll look out for you there and hit me up. All right.
See ya.
Peace.